Hello, of you. So, let us start with the third chapter of class 9th NCRT, and very interesting chapter we have, which we are about to start now. Electoral politics, and it starts with an example from a state in India, in Haryana. They have given example of Lokdal and Chaudhary Devilal. So, the point that they have, the book is trying to tell us is that why do we need elections? This is the most important point that we have to discuss here. And it says that they have summed up in these 4 points that what is the necessity of elections? We need to choose who will make laws for them. As you know, in electoral democracy, those who win elections, either at assembly level or at parliamentary Lok Sabha level, they make laws for the country or for the state. So who will make laws for us? That is to be decided by those people who win the election. Now, another thing, they can choose who will form the government and take major decisions. Of course, this is one and the same thing, that those who win form the government and government has most of the powers. They can choose the party whose policy will guide the government and lawmaking. See, before every election, all the parties, major or minor, they all come with their promises. If we win, then we are going to do this. These promises are listed in a document that is called election manifesto. So every party releases this document that is called election manifesto well before the elections. You and me as citizens of India can look into the election manifesto and we can vote for the party whose promises we find suitable. So this is how it's done. So what makes an election democratic? Everyone should be able to choose. All of us must be having a choice to vote. And again, one vote, one person, universal adult franchise. There should be something to choose from. Parties and candidates should be free to contest election and should offer some real choice to voters. There must be having some real choice. It's not like that every party is same and every candidate is same. There must be some choices available, which means there must be an element of distinction between the parties and the candidates. Thirdly, the choice should be offered at regular intervals. Time-bound elections every 5 years is very necessary, and the candidate preferred by the people should get elected. Of course, whosoever will be preferred by people will win the elections and he and she will be elected. Elections should be conducted in a free and fair manner. Again, that is why we have the Election Commission, a constitutional body that makes sure that elections are conducted in a free and fair manner. Is it good to have political competition? Of course, it's good to have political competition. It saves political parties from what is called complacency. They are, if they become complacent, they will never improve. So in order to avoid complacency, parties must be having political competition. The candidates must be facing political competition. It will only improve them, and the citizens of this country will be better served by their elected representatives. So this is the entire gist of the paragraph that I told you. And here you see, मेरे पास योजनाएं हैं, घोषणाएं हैं, वायदे हैं, मेरे पास वोट है. I'll translate it. The citizen says, this cartoon here by Irfan, he's a leader and he's saying that I have promises, I have announcements, I have plans. And here is the citizen who is saying that I have the vote. So the citizen is holding the petition upside down. And post-election, he's walking away with all the promises. And here is the voter who has been compared to a dog who is offered nothing from those set of promises. Maybe a small thing is being offered. This is post-election. This is pre-election. It's next to some of the situation, a bit aggravated and a bit funny also. So what are electoral constituencies? They have given example of Haryana. 90 MLAs Haryana has. So there are 90 assembly constituencies, which means during state elections, Haryana will be contesting on 90 seats. Now in India, as I told you, there are 543 constituencies and for Lok Sabha, and each constituency is represented by a member of parliament or the MP. So there were two more for Anglo-Indians. That provision has been scrapped. I think we have discussed that. So Lok Sabha election is different from state assembly, that is Vidhan Sabha election. So they have given example of Gulbarga Lok Sabha constituency. Uh, in Karnataka, not very important. There is something called reserved constituency. Now for SCs and STs, for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, there are certain reserved seats which depends on their population, which means that in a particular constituency, if the population of SC and ST is in majority, then only an SC and or ST can contest elections from that very seat. Uh, Delhi has 7 Lok Sabha seats. One of them is a reserve constituency. Hansraj Hans is the current MP there. He is a Dalit. I give you example of Bihar. Hajipur is a reserve constituency. Mr. Ramvilas Paswan used to fight elections from there. His son Chirag Paswan fights from Jamui, again a reserve constituency. So only a SC or ST, depending on the maximum population of SC or ST in that area, whether a SC or an ST, can fight election. However, everyone can vote. The person who votes might not be an SC. Uh, he can be a general, an OBC, or not even a Hindu. So, but only an SC can fight from there. People will choose. And how will an SC fight if the Delimitation Commission of India finds that the demography of this constituency, the majority belong to SC, then it becomes reserved constituency. It keeps changing every year because of the migration, the movement of people from one place to the other. And of course, addition of new people. New people are added to the voter list. So it depends on many factors. This is what is called this is the exactly same thing is written here. SC and ST have reserved constituencies so that their interests are taken care of. Certain section of people in parliament will always be from SC/ST because of this reservation policy. In fact, this is the only place where reservation is accorded as per the caste. All other places it is class, which we shall discuss later on. But you must remember that on the basis of caste, reservation is provided only 2 places. One, the assembly and Lok Sabha seats, the other, educational institutions. Elsewhere, it is class. However, we have translated backward class as backward caste. I'll discuss this in great details, but not today, because this is beyond the scope of class 9th textbook. Now, we all get that epic. This is called this word election photo and ID card. Actually, your voter ID card, and the registered voter, you and me, if we are 18 plus, we can go and vote. So these are the certain things that are seen when a candidate votes. Criminal cases pending against the candidate, detail of the assets and liabilities of, and also of the family of the candidate, educational qualification. Now, Election Commission of India very interestingly has developed an app where all these things are very readily mentioned. These process has become actually easy. You can just download the app and see your constituency, whether assembly or Lok Sabha, and sure who are the candidates, what are their what are the cases, how many property, how much property they have, how much wealth they have made, and what are their educational credentials as well. So it keeps citizenry at an informed level. Election campaigns happens, all parties with the manifesto go all out, and they come with very catchy slogans like Indira Gandhi gave the slogan of Garibi Hatao, remove poverty, and land to the tiller was the concept used by this left parties. Uh, N.T. Ramarao, Telugu Desam party from your state, he gave the slogan of protect to self-respect of the Telugus. Now, he is the predecessor of TDP, Chandrababu's Naidu's party. In fact, he was the father-in-law of Chandrababu, if I'm not sure, if I'm not wrong. So all these parties, all the major and minor parties come up with catchy slogans like Modi ji said, "Ab ki baar Modi Sarkar." So it was again one of the, there were many slogans which the current party floated around, and in order to attract the voters into their side so that they are able to catch the attention. So all these things happen, and then there is something called Model Code of Conduct. Now let me tell you what is Model Code of Conduct. Whenever Election Commission of India announces the date for election, whenever, next day Model Code of Conduct will come into place automatically. What does that mean? The ruling party cannot announce a new project, because if Election Commission says today that election will happen after 2 months, and ruling party will give all sort of schemes will be coming, and distribution will start happening, that I am transferring this much to this people account. So ruling party will have an undue advantage over the opposition. So whenever model code of conduct is in place, the ruling party in state and at the center cannot announce any new major project that would be seen as a violation of code of conduct, and it would put opposition parties to unfair, some unfair degree of electoral competition, because ruling party can spend resources of ruling party is government of India, so they will have more resources than the opposition. That is why this thing is very, very prohibited. There are many other things in code of conduct. Uh, no place of worship can be used for election propaganda, although this is violated with impunity. Government vehicles, aircrafts, and officials for elections. Now, something Indira Gandhi did, and Mr. Raj Narayan complained against her, and she was ordered by the Allahabad High Court. Her candidature as an MP stands cancelled. You cannot use government machinery in your election process. Government is different, party is different. Elections are now, Mr. shall not lay foundation stone. You cannot do a big project inauguration that metro train will be built from Hyderabad to Delhi. No, that's not going to happen when the election is going on, because that is like bribing the voter. You are doing this because you want them to vote for you, and just 2 months are left. These projects will never be completed before elections. So that is why model code of conduct operates, so that people in power do not use these things to their unfair advantage. Now, EVM, EVM we will discuss elsewhere, so I'm leaving it. Anyways, it's a very small thing is given here. So what makes elections in India democratic? Uh, because me and you have choice to vote. And EC takes decision, election commission takes decision, it implements code of conduct. Whenever election happens, election commissions is in the role of a referee. They are seeing which candidate is not obeying. They can ban the candidate, they can cancel candidature of a particular candidate, although it's not done very frequently. But yes, warnings are given, fines are levied upon. In the last election, some very big leaders were asked not to campaign for 2 to 3 days because they violated the code of conduct. They gave some speech which was not liked by the election commission. Opposition parties, one party always keeps a track of other party. That in classroom, when small children complain, "Madam, sir, see, he's pulling my hair, he's pinching me from back." So this is what different parties do when elections are going on. They complain to the election commissioner that, see, if they complain to the election commission, the EC, that so and so has violated this, he said this, which is not in accordance with the model code of conduct. It keeps on happening, and EC has all the years and the time to solve these things during election. And entire election, governance machinery, this thing is very important. Entire election machinery reports to the EC, like the district collector of a particular district. Usually, he is an employee of Government of India working for the state government, an IAS officer. Now he becomes the returning officer. He's reporting to the EC, not to the government. Okay, so this is reporting to the EC. The Central Armed Forces, they are deployed at different places. In Delhi, maybe Central Armed Forces from your state will come, and in your state, someone from Punjab will go there, belonging to the Central Armed Forces, so that uh, someone from Punjab uh, overseeing the election process in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana will not have his regional affiliation down there in South. Okay, so to get rid of these things, this mixing happens, and all the Central Armed Forces report to the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India has a branch in every state known by the name of State Election Commission. So these are the things that happen, and acceptance of election outcome is what happens when the results are declared, and on the basis of that, we see whether a party has won or lost. So this is what I am discussing with you today. There is something more left here, which I shall continue with the next chapter when I'll come tomorrow. For the moment, I'm stopping it here. Please listen to this video. Uh, Write the answers. I'll soon be giving all your answers, feedback on all your answers. See you all very soon. Take good care and keep studying.